Hi friends! I'm just in such a good mood today because the weather is so beautiful. It literally feels like summer here. It's like almost 80 degrees and I am just glowing with happiness. The freaking natural sunlight is hitting me for this video and it's everything. But anyway, hope you guys are all doing well. Today, as you guys can tell from the title, I'm doing kind of a big video. You know, a lot of the times I rank things, I do top whatevers, top fives, you know, on this channel every year. You know, like I do my top 5 favorite albums of the previous year, or I'll do like my top 10 favorite songs by a band. And this is a video that I can't believe I've never done. And I feel like I should do it like every I don't know, 5 to 10 years. Like I wish I had been doing it every 5 years on this channel, because I think it could have been cool to see the evolution of my music taste, or even like every 3 years would have been cool. But today I'm doing my top 10 favorite bands video, which is big. Notice by the way that I said bands and not artists. I feel like that's an interesting thing I need to say. Like, these are all bands. Because if it was artists, you already know Halsey would be in here. Like, I kind of in my brain have like a weird like category where I put like you know, bands in one side and just like solo artists in the other. Like Halsey is my #1 solo artist, but like we're talking about bands. So I just want to get that out there, a little disclaimer. But yes, today I'm going to be going through and talking about my top 10 favorite bands. I'm going to start from number 10 to keep up the suspense, and then 1 is my all-time favorite band, although you probably literally know who that is. I don't know why I'm acting like you guys don't. But yeah, this was hard. I actually literally just before filming, like last minute, made a few little tweaks. So this is tough. This isn't set in stone for the rest of my life, but I figure I've never done this video. It's a good time to do it, and you guys have been, you know, requesting it. Also, I talked about it in one of my previous videos. In my Pop Punk March Sadness video, when I was filling out the bracket, I was talking about how this would be a cool video to do, because that was like pinning bands up against each other, and I was realizing that like some bands are higher than others, so I wanted to put them all on the list. It was tough. I do have some honorable mentions I might just quickly mention at the end. But without further ado, let's just get started with my top 10 favorite bands list. All right, coming in hot at number 10, we have Fall Out Boy. I've been listening to Fall Out Boy actually for a long time. Like my dad played a little bit of them for me as a kid, like their Christmas songs I always listened to every year. And I got into them around the time that I got into Panic and MCR, which was around 2014. That was when like I started my little emo music discovery. And also that was kind of when I started really discovering music on my own, and especially music in more of the alternative genre. And yeah, they were one of those bands that obviously like a staple for anybody discovering music in this time. I probably stumbled upon them because I found Panic, and then I realized like, oh, I've actually been listening to a bunch of their songs all my life and never knew it was them. So yeah, they have just always been a band that I have really enjoyed, definitely like a part of my journey, so I feel like I had to put them on here. They are pretty far back. Originally, like back in, you know, 2015, my top 3 favorite bands were Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, and My Chemical Romance. Like I had the emo trinity was up there for me at one point, but since then it's been almost 10 years and they have, you know, fallen down a bit. But I really need to put them on here because I still do really enjoy them. I still feel like I listen to them enough. I kind of go through like phases and seasons with them, but I am seeing them in June at Wrigley and I'm really excited. Their new album came out and I'm excited to see them on tour, so they will always have a very special place in my heart. My 9th favorite band is the 1975. These guys are great. I think I started getting into them around 2016, and then I saw them for the first time in 2017. The album that really helped me get into them was, I think it's their sophomore album, I Like It When You Sleep, For You Are So Beautiful Yet So Unaware of It. That Pink album really helped me get into them, and then I kind of worked my way backwards and got into their self-titled album, got both those on vinyl. Like I said, I saw them live for that tour, and it was just such a great time. And since then, I've really still tried to keep up with them. I've seen them a couple times. They're always great. I really want to see them again. I was actually bummed that I missed when they were here back in December, so I hope they come out to Chicago soon. I really love them. They have so many bops. I would say like in terms of the albums that I love by them all the way through, it's pretty much only their self-titled and I Like It When You Sleep. Their latest albums though, while I haven't loved everything all the way through, there have been enough key songs and enough singles that I've really enjoyed to keep me coming back for more and keep me listening to them. I really love songs like Love It If We Made It, and To Me, Two Time, whatever, that, you know, that song. People is great. Like, there's a bunch of newer songs that I love, and even their latest album I've been listening to a lot. They're one of those bands I also just love to throw in the background. I feel like everyone would kind of like them if they were just in the background, and yeah, I just love them, and they're fantastic. My 8th favorite band is Knocked Loose. They're basically, I would say, the only hardcore band on here. Not the only screaming band, but the only like hardcore band. They really helped me get into hardcore, kind of move from like the post-hardcore genres to true hardcore. I know there's some debates that they're not hardcore, but whatever. I love them. I have a flag there, you can't see it, but it's there of them. And I love them so much. I got into them in, I think, like 2017. Me and Vama got into them because then we saw them at Warped Tour in 2017 on the Baby stage, and that was so cool, and that was a really big year for us getting into hardcore music. Like I said, like, it was the first band that really got us into that genre, and since then I love hardcore. I mean, I've made videos on here about my favorite hardcore bands and songs, and yeah, they just kind of opened a new, you know, genre door for me, and since then they've gotten me into so many more hardcore bands. But I will say that they are still my favorites, and I've listened to a lot of hardcore bands. You know, I really love a lot. I listen to hardcore almost like every morning when I run, honestly, but yeah, they still up at the top for me. A Different Shade of Blue is my favorite album by them, but I also love Laugh Tracks, and then their latest EP, A Tear in the Fabric of Time, fantastic.
Literally so embarrassing that I got the name wrong. I realize it's not A Tear in the Fabric of Time, it's A Tear in the Fabric of Life. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
And I've actually seen them on tour for, I feel like, every album era. Like, we saw them in Warped Tour, and that was sort of the Laugh Tracks era. And then I saw them on the Different Shade of Blue tour, which was amazing. I vlogged that, it's on here, back in 2019. And then last year, I went to see them in Joliet, Illinois in April, and that was right after their latest EP had been released. And they are awesome. I love seeing them live, and they just like fire me up, and their music is so, so good. And yeah, it's really cool to have a hardcore band, I feel like, on my top 10 list. And yeah, they are amazing. If you're trying to get into hardcore and you like harder pop punk, I would recommend checking them out. I think they are a really good sort of stepping stone to get more into the genre. And yeah, they're fantastic. Coming in at number 7, we have Belmont. Gotta put Belmont in here. I discovered them back in 2018. They were actually opening up for Rarity back in Albany when I lived there, and I went to a show solely for Rarity, or was Rarity opening up for them? I think actually Rarity was opening up for them, sorry. But I saw this show, and I just saw Rarity on the bill, and I really liked Rarity at the time, so I was like, I'm gonna go. Didn't know any of their bands, and really honestly got into pretty much all of them. And then really fell in love with Belmont through that show. It's actually funny because I enjoyed like listening to them. At the time, I did not think their live show was amazing. If you watch my thoughts in that vlog, I was like, Belmont was okay. But since then, their live show has, you know, improved drastically, and I even, you know, saw them a year later in 2019 in the summer, and they were my 50th show, and it was one of my favorite shows ever, and they were headlining, and now they kind of all know me. I've met them so many times. They're from Chicago, so once I moved here, they kind of saw me a lot, and so many actually funny, weird connections to them within the scene. And yeah, they just mean so much to me. The band members are so, so sweet. Current and, you know, older band members that have since left the band still see me at shows and are very, very nice. They've really done so much too in the last 4 years. They're very experimental. They've tried so many new things. I remember when Reflections came out, and I was just like, wow, this is really cool. Like, I just feel like they went from being a pop punk band that was redefining the genre. I stand with that. Their debut, you know, full-length album, their self-titled album, it really was redefining pop punk at the time. But then they went on to try even crazier things in their latest album and their latest EPs. It's gotten really good feedback from everybody. I feel like everyone's received it very well, and they're still thriving, and I love to see their hometown shows here in Chicago. They are just so much fun. The energy on stage is amazing. I've seen them at big venues, I've seen them at small venues, and they're just always a blast to see. I really love putting on their music because I feel like it isn't just stereotypical pop punk, and sometimes all pop punk, even to me, kind of starts to sound the same, and I get kind of sick of the genre. But they're one of those bands I feel like I can always go back to help me get back into the genre, and like, it's like I'm listening to pop punk, but I don't get bored from them. I don't know, they just bring something new to me, and their self-titled album will always have a very special place in my heart. I really just, attribute that album to just like the end of 2018, but really like most of 2019, like my sophomore year of college, and just like driving to so many shows, summer of 2019. I just listened to Belmont so much. That was the year I did Warped Cast, my podcast, and we talked about Belmont so much on that podcast. And yeah, they just have such a special place in my heart, and I'm so glad they're still making music. My 6th favorite band is one I'm sure a lot of you know, and that is The Story So Far. Now this is kind of crazy how high up they are, considering I only got into them in 2018, which yes, it's been 4 years, but like they've done a lot before then, and I was very much late to the party of getting into this band. I think I knew who they were, I knew of the name, I knew Clairvoyant as like the only song, you know, in my Spotify library for a while. But 2018 when I moved here, they came here and put on a killer show with Citizen and Turnover and Movements. It was amazing, and that really forced me to get into them. Proper Dose had just come out, and that was the soundtrack to my freshman year of college. I mean, I listen to Proper Dose every fall. It's one of my favorite albums probably ever, at least favorite pop punk album for sure. And it just takes me back to when I first moved to the city, which is like such a special feeling. So that album really helped me get into them. And then in preparation for that show in 2018, I just did my research and I listened to all their old stuff, and I was just amazed at the energy. And I mean, their live shows have definitely changed a bit since, you know, Parker doesn't move around as much, I know. But I think they still sound great. I've seen them many times at this point. Seeing them at festivals is super fun. I've seen them twice at Riot Fest, and it's really just so fun to see them at festivals for some reason, because I think the crowd is just so into it. Like, because Parker isn't that crazy on stage, it's almost like you need the crowd to be crazy, so that something is, you know, going nuts, and it's so much fun. They have so much, you know, I guess anger in their voice and like passion, and I mean, yeah, Proper Dose is great. So yeah, they're really high up there. I know they're like a lot of people's favorite pop punk bands, and obviously they're not my #1, but they definitely deserve a spot on this list because I've listened to them a lot the last few years and they never disappoint. My 5th favorite band is Trophy Eyes. Now, I actually just moved them down a few spots before this video. That was the tweak that I made. Originally, I had them a bit higher. I did some thinking, and I pushed them a bit down. And that's just mainly because I talked about this in a previous video that I don't really know their first album very well. Men to Move On. I still haven't given that much of a listen. But let me just tell you, Chemical Miracle was the soundtrack to 2017 for me. Really like summer 2017. Like, I actually listened to it the other day because I'm seeing them in a few weeks, and so I'm, you know, listening to them again, I'm getting nostalgic, and like putting on Chemical Miracle just takes me back to driving to my first job, driving to Journeys at the mall, and blasting that album in the car. And it is just crazy how nostalgic it is. That album, Vom and I really got into that year because we saw them at Warped Tour in 2017 for the first time, and that was awesome. So they are just fantastic. And then they came out with The American Dream in 2018, and I listened to that so much at college that year. That album I don't think was my album of the year 2018, but it was like pretty high up there. I love that album. And they just announced, I think literally yesterday as I'm filming this, they're coming out with a brand new album. I think it's coming out like June 23rd or 22nd, and I believe it's called Suicide and Sunshine. And oh my god, y'all, it's literally been like 5 years, and I am so excited. They are one of my favorite live bands. I think I've only seen them 3 times, and it's been like 4 years since I've seen them live. So I am so excited to be seeing them live in less than a month. I'm going to the Chicago date on May 8th at Bottom Lounge, and I cannot wait. And a lot of the singles and new songs for this album have already come out, so I cannot wait to hear those live. Everything they've released, I've pretty much been enjoying. I'm definitely curious to see what the new album is like, how the sound has sort of changed, because it's been 5 years. And their sound has changed every album, but I've pretty much enjoyed it all. Like, even Men to Move On is really hard. I like it. I just haven't like listened to it a ton and don't know it very well. But yeah, I really love their progression as a band, and I'm just such a big fan of them, and their music just makes me cry, and I love it. My 4th favorite band is Panic at the Disco. This is funny to say because, as many of you know, they were my #1s for many, many years. They are the band that jump-started my whole love of the alternative genre. Back in 2014, I was scrolling through Tumblr and I found somebody posted their song Mercenary, which you guys probably don't even know what that song is. It was for, I think, a Batman movie at the time. And it's sort of hard to find on Spotify, but it was like part of a Batman movie soundtrack. And somebody posted that audio on Tumblr, like back when you could do that. And I found it and I listened and I was just like the room shifted. I was like, oh, who is this? What is this band? And I believe at the time, what was the latest album? It must have been Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die, right? Because that came out in 2013. And oh my god, like I was in love. Like I just fell so hard for this band and like Brendan Urie and like just everyone. And at that point, the members were still like, you know, it wasn't just Brendan. Like Dallin was in the band and Kenny, like it was that time. And man, I love them so much and I really just fell in love with them. A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, their first album, is still my favorite album of all time, which I could do a video on my favorite album, my top 10 favorite albums, but I will tell you, A Fever You Can't Sweat Out has been up there for a very long time, and it still is very proud up there. That album brings me so much nostalgia, it's so theatrical, it's so much fun, and I loved the progression of their music. I mean, I was obsessed with every era. Pretty Odd, Vices and Virtues, Too Weird to Live, Death of a Bachelor I even loved. And then after that, they went downhill, I will say. But Vama and I actually went and saw them in 2015. It was our first GA concert in Connecticut. It was just everything. I have a whole video talking about it on here from years ago. But I mean, they were my first real show, and it was just so much fun. And then we saw them again in 2016 with Weezer at an amphitheater, and that was just so magical. That vlog is up too. And there's just so many good memories surrounding that band. I mean, they helped me become connected to Vama and like have that friendship, and that was really special to me too. And just so many good memories. I got my parents into them. My mom like still really loves them. And Pretty Odd, I listen to a lot in the summer still. I mean, they're just so nostalgic and they will always have a very special place in my heart. You know, they recently just obviously announced they're like officially broken up. Brendan is like, I'm having a child, I'm done. And like, while I was a little bit sad, like I did not like their last two albums, apart from very, very few songs. So I haven't really been following them very much the last few years. So it was kind of like a nice closure moment, I would say. But I mean, everything from Death of the Bachelor and like past is just amazing to me, and if were not for them, I just would not love music the way I do. I don't think I would like be this connected to this genre and to you guys and like kind of having a platform about music and be so connected to a scene and to want to go to college in a city that is so musical. Like, I just feel like I owe a lot to them. And so while they have moved down to the 4th spot now, they, you know, will probably maybe always be in top 5, I would hope. I don't know, but I mean, I do really love them so much, and they mean a ton to me. I think we all kind of have a band that, you know, if we don't listen to them much anymore, we do accredit a lot of our music taste from them. I think that's pretty special. And my third favorite band is Dance Gavin Dance. They have really just run up this list. It's crazy. I found them, gosh, when was it? I think it was it 2019? I saw them my freshman year of college. So I got into them about 4 years ago. And I saw them for the first time. I remember I went to back-to-back nights of their tour for Artificial Selection, because that's the album that got me into them. And it was like April 18th and 19th, I think, for 2019. And yeah, I really fell in love with Artificial Selection. My friend at the time showed me Care from their album Artificial Selection, and I remember I really like fell in love with that song in 2018, the summer. And then I was like, oh, I really gotta listen to the rest of this album. And I mean, I just really fell in love with their music. Their music is so much fun. It is so dancey. I loved the screaming and the singing going back and forth. You know, I mentioned there were other bands on here that screamed. I was mainly talking about Dance Gavin Dance. You know, I don't know what you'd consider them. Post-hardcore maybe? Melodic hardcore? I don't really know. But their music is just so funny. The lyrics are hilarious. And I mean, the screaming and the singing, the amazing instrumentation. They were my top Spotify like listened to band for, minus last year, previous to that, I think the last 3 years in a row. So like, when I fell in love with them, I fell in love with them hard. And I listened to them a lot. And then they came out with their last 2 albums, which I absolutely loved and listened to so much. I listen to them a lot when I work out, when I run. They just give me so much energy, they pump me up. I love dancing to their song. Summertime Gladness is my favorite song by them, and you know it's a summertime day today, so I'll be putting that on and boogieing. Like, their music just makes me so happy and just makes me want to dance. It was one of the things that like my boyfriend and I first like kind of had in common. we first started hanging out, like they're one of his favorite bands, and so it's really, really fun to have been able to connect over them in that way and go see them together. We've seen them live together, and it's just been so much fun. There's a very funny story about the first time I went and saw Dance Gavin Dance. I saw a friend there at the end who was actually with my now boyfriend. Back then, he was just like a very distant stranger. Like, I didn't really know who this person was, but he got the set list, and I was such a freaky fangirl that I was like, can I just hold the set list? Like, I just want to look at it. And he was literally told me like, oh my god, you were that crazy girl who wanted to hold my set list. And like, he thought I was gonna like run away and steal it. Like, it's just a very funny story that we have, and just kind of funny and crazy how, you know, we sort of saw each other and then, you know, reconnected obviously. But yeah, just very funny memories with this band, and I love seeing them live. I hope I get to see them again maybe this year. I know a lot has happened with the band. A lot of crazy stuff has gone on with them in the last few years, which is sad, but their music is just so much fun, and it makes me feel so good and upbeat. Like, if I'm sad, Summertime Gladness is one of those songs I could be in the worst mood and I put that shiz on and there's gonna be a smile on my face and I'm gonna want to move. And you know, having bands like that and songs like that is really special. So they're just, I love them so much, and I have grown to fall in love with them so hard the last few years. All right, coming down to the wire, my second favorite band goes to Movements. And this is just crazy. I've been listening to them since 2017. I've had a lot of bands in 2017, but I also saw them at that work date in 2017. So Fama and I really got into them. I remember listening to Outgrown Things, their first EP, because that was the only thing that was out at the time. Spring of 2017, I listened to Outgrown Things probably at least twice a day for like a month straight. Like, I'm not kidding. I think it was like April-ish to May. I'd be walking to class. Like, that's the only thing that would be in my earbuds. Like, I just fell in love with them so hard. Everybody was kind of talking about them at the time, and we knew they were gonna be on Warped Tour, so that's how I, you know, started to get into them, because I saw everyone was talking about them and I wanted to see them at Warped Tour. And I remember we like ran into Warped Tour because they were playing at noon, and we were trying to get to the stage, and we got there and there were like 10 people, and we were like second row at the time. And then just watching them blossom a year later, going to Warped Tour in 2018, and they were on the biggest stage, and like at that point Daylily had come out, which got them so much traction. You know, we got to sing Pink Clouds Summer as the pink clouds were overhead. There was confetti and everything, people just did all this stuff, and it was so beautiful. And they're one of those bands that I literally love their entire discography. Movements do not have a bad song, in my opinion. Like, I literally love every single song on their discography. And I mean, I was realizing this, as you guys saw, when I was filling out the March Madness bracket. I was like, oh my god, Movements are getting far in this. Like, I didn't really realize, and that made me sort of rethink and want to do this video, because I was like, oh my god, are Movements like my second or third favorite band? Like, are they up there? And you best believe they are. And it's almost weird. It happened, I feel like, very organically. Like, I didn't realize how much I loved them until recently, maybe. I mean, I knew that I loved them. I got to see them for the first time in 4 years last year, and I cried. Like, I crowd surfed, Pat and I sang to each other, I cried. Like, it was just an emotional experience. So I feel like that's probably when I realized, like, oh shiz, like, I missed them. But yeah, I literally love every single song they've released, and their music is so amazing. It is, you know, you go back a bit and it's very emo. I love their first EP and how like screamy it is and raspy, and Feel Something, like I said, so emo. Like, I only listen to that when I sort of want to get in my feels. But then you have their latest album, No Good Left to Give, which is fantastic, and all the little singles they've released since. I mean, just everything is so fun. Cherry Thrill, such a sexy bop. I got to see them play that at Riot Fest last year, and it was just such a great experience. Like, they have such an amazing live presence, and I feel like they're just very genuine guys. And yeah, I've been supporting them for so long, and I still love them so much. And finally, my #1 favorite band, you guys probably know this, and that is Knuckle Puck. This is no shock to any of you all, and I'm sure you guys are already like, okay, yes, we know. They've been my favorite band. I don't know when like I officially declared it, but probably, I'm assuming like 2018 maybe. Like, they kind of took the shift over from Panic. They're from Chicago. I got into them back in 2016 when I went to my first ever real pop punk show. They were playing with Neck Deep, State Champs, and like Pacific, and I really fell in love with all of those bands. But there was something very special about Knuckle Puck, and it wasn't so special in the sense that I was like, oh, now they're immediately taking the first place spot. It was kind of like Movements. It was a gradual love that began to grow, and their music just means so much to me. The one tattoo that I have is partly like about them. It's an evergreen tree because the favorite song by them is Evergreen, and you know, they are from Chicago, so they have some, you know, really great Chicago references in a lot of their songs. I've met them so many times. They are just like out at shows. Like last week I was at a show doing merch for Wolf Road, and the Wolf Road guys just like ran into John from Knuckle Pucks. He was just there. Like they just go to these shows and just like support local bands, and it's so cute. And they're just such genuine guys. Their music just means so much to me. Like Movements, they pretty much have a flawless discography in my mind. Other than I would say like the shifted tracks, I love pretty much every single thing they've ever released, and I loved seeing the progression of their music. You know, Copacetic means so much to me, obviously, because that's around the time that I found them. Their older EPs are amazing. I love the progression of how they started as this raw pop punk band and how they've just progressed, and their music they're making now is wonderful. So I don't know how much more to say about them, because like I talk about them, I feel like somehow in like every other video. But if you guys know me, you know that Knuckle Puck are very important to me. And I hope that I, you know, continue to stan them and are a fan for a very long time. Well, I just feel like I talked a lot. But there you guys go. That was my list of my top 10 favorite bands. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment down below and let me know some of your favorite bands. If you guys have your top 10 list, give it to me down below. Or even if you just know like your top 3 or your top 5, I would also love to hear it. I will quickly rattle out a few of my honorable mentions, which include My Chemical Romance, State Champs, 21 Pilots, Turnstile, Jetty Bones, and Wolf Road. But yeah, this list was very hard to make. It was definitely a challenge, and it would be fun to do this again in a few years and see if anything has shifted and changed. And yeah, these bands are all really just mean so much to me and have shaped me, and I listen to them a lot. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And other than that, I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!